All right, we're going to call this city council meeting to order at 6:04 on October the 26th. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Mays? Present. Ms. Popala? Present. Mr. Nelson?
Present.
Mr. Freeman?
I'm here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Winfrey?
Present.
Ms. Galloway?
Present.
Ms. Van Buren?
Present.
Thank you.
All right, if we can all rise for the pledge. I'll lead us in the pledge, and we'll have a, if we can remain standing for a brief prayer from Councilwoman Galloway. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilwoman.
Amen. I'll be praying a prayer from the Office of the Chaplain of the United States House of Representatives. Almighty God, we give you thanks for giving us another day. We pray for the gift of wisdom to all with great responsibilities in our leadership. Along with millions of men and women around the world, we join in prayer for those in leadership in our world, those you have entrusted to lead in local and national governments in this nation and all the nations of the world. Guide them, Lord, with wisdom and truth. May they seek you in the decisions they make and in the way they live. In praying for them, we also remember to pray this day for those on life's margins who are affected by extreme poverty, poor health care, polluted and diseased water, unjust societies, division and terror, and those who do not know or have the opportunity to receive a quality education. Lord, the suffering of this world is all around us. Stimulate our hearts and minds so that everything we may do this day would be for your great honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. President, could we have a moment of silence for the tethers that I no longer wear? No, I'm just kidding.
All right, before we get started, any person that insists in disrupting this meeting will be in violation of Flint City Code Section 31-12, disorderly conduct and disorderly persons, and will be subject to arrest for a misdemeanor. Any person who prevents the peaceful and orderly conduct of this meeting will be given one warning. If this person persists in disrupting the meeting, that individual will be subject to arrest. First item on our agenda is minutes 150883.
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays.
yeah, I would move that we approve the minutes with any correction.
There's a motion on the floor to approve. Is there
Support.
support? Been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President,
Councilman Mays.
when I looked at the minutes, I didn't see them go to the extent of adjourning the meeting, and I also looked at them as it related to the motion to approve. Last time it said a place on file. I won't nitpick about that. And then I also looked, Ms. Galloway, at the obsolete rehabilitation exemption certificate for over at the Dordt Federal Credit Union area. And if I had known that, I would have separated it. But, you know, I made a motion to approve these minutes with any corrections. And the only thing that I'm looking at is taking it to the point of adjournment, unless it's just missing. But other than that, I'm ready to vote.
Is there any further discussion? Can we have roll call on the minutes?
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Ms. Popala?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no to accept the minutes.
And just as a FYI, I did announce it in the committee meeting, but Councilman Kincaid has some family health issues and he will not be here tonight. Next item on our agenda is public comment. This is the public's opportunity to speak to items pertaining specifically to our agenda. You do have 3 minutes to address us. Madam Clerk will read off the names. We do have a timer out front that we're going to give a whirl tonight and go from there. Our first speaker.
Our first speaker is Mr. Keith Pemberton. Mr. Pemberton.
Good evening.
My name is Keith Pemberton, and I live in Flint.
Bear with us as we learn this new process.
That's okay. I would just like to pose a question that I'm not sure anybody here will even give a right answer for, but why isn't Flint monitoring the testing being done at Freeman School by the MDEQ? We all know that the state MDEQ is using still the wrong materials and the wrong methodology for getting correct readings of lead. And they were using them right on TV in the report. So how can we trust the state to give us good readings that our kids and grandkids have to go to that school, and we're not even supervising it? And that's our city's responsibility, to make sure that whatever corrective steps are being taken the right way. So when we get the test results back, how are we going to know that those are honest, good, clear, clean test results? That's my question, and I hope that somebody will give an honest answer to that. Also, I don't understand, and there's thousands of other citizens in Flint that we talk to don't understand why we aren't getting the credits on our bills that the judge ordered, simply because you guys filed an appeal or a stay or whatever it was that you guys filed. You've already admitted that the water's poison. You already admitted mistakes were made. Why can't we have the refund? You broke the law in raising the things. Why? There's no good answer for that either. Before the time bell goes off, I just like to say I appreciate the fact that we're allowed to come up here and talk. And now I'm going to address the council and the president with all the respect and care that they've given us. None.
Thank you, Mr. Pemberton. Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Mr. Arthur Woodson. Mr. Woodson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm just going to ask a couple of questions here. For Resolution 150887, contract with Zito Construction Water Main Cutting Project. This is the same company that is hired through KWA. I have taken 7 people to Zito Construction, and none of them have gotten a call to work there. I fish out at Holloway Reservoir, so I pass the construction all the time. And I stop and videotape everybody that works out there. The only black people that works out there are the flag person. I came to a KWA meeting one time, and they had the hardest job out there is the flag person. Well, the flag person is hired through Labor Ready, which only pays $7.25. In this contract that Zito has, is it paying them $695,870 from the water fund? Will is there any stipulations in this contract that they hire someone from Flint? Because I know I'm tired of giving up taxpayers' dollars from the city of Flint that goes outside the city of Flint. No one is looking into that. Then I was reading today where there's a Swedish company, biogas, that's here in Flint, that's partnered with Kettering. Where is the money from that? I mean, I haven't heard anything about it. I just happened to read about it. They've been here since 2008. Where's the revenue from that? Do we get a revenue from that? Or, where's the funds for that? Do they hire people, and it's working with the water department? So me, myself, I just want to know where's the money and where's the jobs? And in this contract, will it be stipulated that residents from Flint get a job with Zito? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker?
Our next speaker is Mr. R.L. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, Josh, so-called president. My name is R. Earl Mitchell, and I designed that you know where. I'm gonna get right straight to the point because the clock is ticking. I mean, straight to the point. Like, I want to congratulate Miss Mays on this taking off his teller because in Miss Henderson giving Mays his crop, talking about he's smart for looking into this 1974 budget, thing they talk about, this strong mayor order. Because I remember this, we had to fight to get this stuff in action. Just like Madam O'Hara took prayer out of school, that's what Mays was trying to do him the same way, going to have a tell on the 3rd of, he was running for mayor, but they had now it's a woman running now, all the props goes to her now, if she ever get in, if nothing, don't pull no more stuff on. But in that prayer, Miss Galloway said, when you said that prayer, they ain't had nothing in mind for you when you prayed that, talking about giving honor to the, anyway, I can't say nothing else because Josh already threatened somebody to talk about religious in here, talking about all that stuff, just like last week. Josh he didn't mention that he whispered at a popo, and the popo grabbed me by my neck almost and threw me out the window. But he must have thought I was Mays or something. Josh dropped his cell phone under the table, then he went over he don't want me to put that on the record. But about Miss Henderson, about her running this city, it's just like Mays himself. When you do stuff, that's just like you representing Mays, because Mays is supposed to have been the mayor of this city, because I got in a fight at Southwestern in 1971 for this, we fought for this strong mayor revolution back in Southwestern. None but popos coming in high school over there, and that's what now you're trying to throw it out, the whole situation with all them smart talking Galloway praying, never had prayer in City Hall before until now she's going to put that stuff in there, putting that stuff in there, right on, in all that religious stuff in there, and the president backing them up, don't want to threaten people, don't want just freedom of speech, all that stuff, and all. Give my rest of my minute to somebody else.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Mrs. Shirley Taylor. Mrs. Taylor.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
This city should be taken over by the federal government. It should be taken over by the federal government for the abuse, the mistrusting, and pocketing the funds from the citizens. The citizens are just being prostituted in the city of Flint by this so-called government. Wallins and Snyder should be prosecuted just like Kwame Kilpatrick and put in the same cell he was in. Where's justice? Where's equality? There's no justice, there's no government, there's no equality here. This is a dictatorship. that we have in Flint. Don't be hiding your head in the sand. It's a fact of life. And this water situation, they tested for lead. What about the feces, the germs, all of the bacteria? What else was tested for? I know when they took, my home was just under 4,000 square feet, and it was that much feces and water in there. They pumped it out and put it in the Flint River. Took from 11 o'clock that day until 4:30 the next morning. And it was filmed by Aquin, an investigator from Aquin. And Miss Peerford told me that I should make the city buy me another house because the house was condemned and deemed unfit to live in. My grandson and I were sleeping in my SUV. This is Flint, Michigan. This is what every house that gets a water bill, water should be brought to us 2 cases every day.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Our next public speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tim Robbins. Mr. Robbins.
How you doing?
Good evening.
I'm new to the game, but a lot of people have been fighting for a long time. I'm learning things as I go, but what I find strange is, seems to me that it's a conflict of interest that Mayor Walling and yourself are on the board of directors of the KWA and you hold positions with the Flint City.
Can you bring the microphone up so we can hear you, please?
Sure. And could you hear what I asked or said so
Conflict
far?
of interest with KWA and me and the Walling City
Being
on the board.
both. I would assume that you earn paychecks from both?
I do not.
Okay, what, you don't learn anything long-term, so I went on the KWA website today and just scanned briefly over it, and it said the mission was to keep costs of water low. But after the KWA took over, it seems like water rates increased twice. So it doesn't make sense that, it seems like it's poison for profit. And honestly, I'm one of those conspiracy realists that think that some people that have ideas like this have interest in water. There's a financial interest in water bottle companies and maybe medicines that treat things from lead poisoning and such. But like I said, I just want to come up and say something. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. Next public speaker.
Our last speaker for this segment is Mrs. Nancy Berger. Mrs. Berger.
Good evening.
Good evening. As far as the water situation, I'm from Ambassador East, Mobile Home Park,
Pull the microphone back down. Thank you.
and that was condemned. The park has been condemned. It's been red tagged, but at this time we're given a moment to move out because a lot of us are disabled and a lot of us are unable to move our things out like that. The person who pushed the button to have this person come and red tag us was Mr. Walling himself. So, now, the reason why our park was condemned, if you'd all like to know, was due to no running water coming from our tap. We were going and getting jugs of water from a cemetery. So, if anybody up here, including Walling himself, wants to go and frag the water line on holy grounds, so be it, but I'll tell you what, it's not nice to do that. But all the people in the park, mobile home park, yeah, we filed damage claims. I'm going to tell you that right now so that we could stay in our mobile homes and tell you why we didn't have this water? I understand why. I'm kind of glad we didn't have this water. We had our water tested from the well that's 80 years old. Tested 10 times cleaner than this city's water. 10 times cleaner. Now we're forced to move out of our homes that some of them have lived in there 30 plus years. And yeah, we're in the process, me and another man that lives in there are in the process of moving out. And we get water bills now. We have paid $2,400 to get PEX pipes put in our home. So we don't have no lead pipes, no copper pipes in our home, period. Here we are, we get a water bill, 1 month, its actual read comes up to $78.38. Very next month, it's estimated. It's the same amount. Same amount. The only difference is the service charges went up $5. But guess what? The man that's in this home was only in this home by himself for that month. And it turned up looking like pee. It smells. Even though we switched to Detroit water, it smells like feces. It stinks like chlorine. It's better water than Flint water, definitely by far. But I think Mayor Walling needs to resign, and resign now.
Thank you. I believe that was our last public speaker for this portion, and I'll respond to just a couple of them. Mr. Pemberton, we're going to put on the Finance Committee what that Finance Administration, the process for monitoring testing at Freeman School. So on the 4th of November, that'll be a discussion item. And if we can also, Ms. Lundquist, go over the change in billing, because apparently that's not getting out to people so that they understand what that process is, and if we can maybe get that on the website again as well. I'm not sure if that's there or not. Mr. Robbins, we're not on KWA water yet. That won't happen until June of next year. And nobody on the KWA board that serves as a member of the board is paid. That is all a volunteer position.
That is a lie. That is a lie.
No, it's not a lie. It's the truth.
That's why the guy walks.
And if somebody else is getting paid and I'm doing it for free, I'm doing it wrong then, because I'm not getting paid for it. Let me rephrase. I'm not getting paid to serve on the KWA board, and I am only one of, I think there's 15 of us that are there. So I can only speak for myself. I have yet to receive a check from anything serving on KWA, and really to get anything other than a days less pay every quarter, because I go to the meetings and leave work to go to it. So I can speak for myself. So that's all I have. Is anybody, Councilwoman Poplar?
Thank you, Mr. President. In reference to Mr. Woodson, I'm on the same page with you for once in my life. We used to get on the bidding sheets, we used to get the data on how many men, how many women, how many black, how many white, how many Hispanic, from every company that submitted a bid. But with the change in the law, we could no longer receive that information. But I will do a referral to this company, what is it, Zito? Zito. I will do a referral to that company and ask them if they would send me personally how many men that are working, how many women are working, how many black, how many white, how many African American, how many Hispanic. But we used to get all of that information on every bid that came in, so we knew, you know, kind of like what the mix of the workers were. So if I get the information, I'll pass it on to you. You're welcome.
Councilman Mays?
Yeah, Mr. President, I would, since you say on the November 4th agenda, we will deal with the testing a little bit. I also want to put on that November 4th agenda some type of conversation or communication on the update of the communications that has or have not went on between Attorney Val Washington and or Ms. Henderson. We need to talk about that one way or another, because I need to get an update unless it's, I don't know if they'd have met once, twice, I don't know what we're doing. I think I've seen something that we were in court last week on the news, but I need an update on that Shears case and what's going on with what's happening in Haman's court, because I'm getting a lot of communications about refunds, and I always say refunds and or credits. And then, you know, it's the reasons I want to talk about that, because of those 13,000 or so, what you call it, water liens. So let's put that on that Finance Committee agenda as well, and I would make that referral. Ms. Poplar addressed the Woodson thing with Zito's, but I would try to ask that all council members get the information if it comes from Zito's, not just, you know, one. I understand the personal request, but I don't think that she minds if we all get that, if that information comes forward. And Ms. Taylor, as it relates to the water test, that'll be on the November 4th agenda. We meet, you know, sometime on the first and third Wednesdays of each month in the committee room, and you can learn a lot, you know, by attending those meetings. The investigation and prosecution aspect of it. It's been a lot of people talk about people need to be prosecuted and thrown in jail. I'm a person that says that if somebody is charged, they're innocent until proven guilty. I'm a believer in that. And so, you know, I'll be in a trial on election day. Hopefully y'all go vote. I'll be picking a jury. But the point is this. We asked for investigative power. This city council has investigative power no different than in Washington and Lansing. You see how long they kept Hillary in questioning the other night? I think it was 11 hours. I'm trying to get this council to back me up on fighting to do our local legislative investigative power. You know, from what I've found out, I don't think it's gonna turn out that we won't find out some things. Whether it makes us better in the future or whether or not things will be turned over to somebody else, I think it starts locally. And so as we go through this meeting, maybe at the end, we'll put motions on the floor and see what comes out of it. Also, Mr. Robbins, there's been a lot of talk about the conflict of interest, the Kara Gandhi or whatever. And no matter who is the mayor, the way they got them organizational papers drawn up, if you were the mayor, I was the mayor of the city of Flint chairs the Kara Gandhi. That's how it's set up. And then you got certain members of the county commissioners, the city council, and they all hold those slots. But I'll tell you what I do. Soon as this election is over, I'll make a referral and we'll take a closer look at whether or not they have some conflicts as it relates to the Kara Gandhi. Ms. Berger, after the election is over, Nancy, I'll be willing to meet with the residents of Ambassador again. I appreciate the administration and their indulgence as we try to help people get situated. I know for a fact now that the land bank has had an auction. I also know for a fact that they got another one, I think, coming up shortly, and they do what they call putting some stuff in bulk. And when they put them good houses and bad houses in bulk, some of them is put in bulk so that won't nobody bid on them. and then after they pass through the process in bulk, is it the 29th? Then they'll break them up and sell them individually. So I'm still of the belief that this is one of the best cities in town to get people property. And so after November the 3rd, I would like to meet with the people at Ambassador again. And in light of what's going on with people with or without water, I'm speaking loud and clear that my first priority of residence is the people with families who don't have water. That's my #1 priority in the water thing right now, because that's who I call the least of them. Those who have been shut off for allegedly having high bills, and if them high bills was because of unlawfully raised water rates dating back to 2011 and 16. That's why, Mr. President, I want an update on that litigation in Finance Committee meeting. And Ms. Nancy Berger, I would ask that you and Mr. Robbins hold my feet to the fire and remind me what I said that we can talk about and meet about after November 3rd, regardless of who's in office. Bio-Swedish gas, Mr. Woodson, we'll talk about it when we get to the resolution. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Galloway.
I wanted to know if we can add to the request from Zito, how many of those are Flint residents, if we could?
Sure.
Thank you.
Recognize that referral. Any further council people? Councilman Winfrey?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Woodson, he left, didn't he? I wanted to ask him a question about, he said that somebody was partnering with Kettering, and I want to know who he said. I missed that point. But I will.
Sure, he'll be back.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Are you done, Councilman?
No.
Okay.
And then to my colleague, Councilman Mays, regarding investigative powers, is it that the council will not perform its investigative powers, or is it the emergency manager law that preempts the council from doing its investigative powers regarding the its power to investigate? I think we should get to the bottom of this and find out why it is we won't, or why we can't, and make sure that the people know that.
If I may, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, if you look at, I think it's emergency manager order number, don't hold me to the order number, but maybe 3 or 31 or something. It's an emergency manager order that's titled City Administrator. That refers to Ms. Henderson. And in that emergency manager order, it gives the city administrator the discretion as to whether or not we can utilize our investigative powers that the charter gave us. My position is I don't believe that everything the emergency manager and or the mayor has done is unlawful. And the example I use is the increase of water rates that Hayman in the Court of Appeals ruled on, that said the mayor's increase and the emergency manager's increase was unlawful. So my logic is twofold. One, I've asked Ms. Henderson, I don't know if you was here, would she block any investigation? And she said no, but we didn't really get all that we need to get as far as do no means subpoena power and putting people under oath. But she is somewhat, we talked about that. But then I don't believe the order is really a valid order, because the order, in my legal opinion, for whatever it's worth, can't change certain aspects of the charter. And the charter gives us that power, so the minute that somebody tried to block us, then I say then we should ask for independent counsel, or even me as an individual. I don't need counsel. I know how to file the lawsuit and go myself, but it's just a lot of work. And you sometimes want quality representation that we deserve when you're dealing with important issues. So I'm saying the council then have to take some initiative. If I put a motion on the floor later on in this meeting, it might die for a lack of a second that we do our local investigation, and it would be things like asking Mr. Croft and his staff and personnel questions under oath about testing and what they sent to the DEQ. It would also be asking Mayor Wallen and his staff what they did, and it might also be asking the city attorney's office what they did as it relates to sending test results and was the legal department looking over public works department, because they talk about, you know, laws that said if we was a city over 50,000, we should be held to these standards. But if we was a city under 50,000, and everybody know we was over 50,000. So the proper way to do it, in my opinion, is honest and open in front of an open council meeting, transparent, under oath. And if people came forward and told us under oath and they were honest, then that's what we're supposed to do. We have a legislative duty to do those type of things on important matters that come before this council based upon the literal language of the charter. And if we don't fight to do that, then I think we're derelict in our duty on certain matters.
Councilman Winfrey?
Mr. Freeman, he's back if he wants to ask his question.
Thank you for that update. I appreciate that. Councilman Winfrey?
Yes. Mr. Woodson, before you left, you had said that some organization was partnering with Kettering, and I didn't hear the name. Would you give me that name, please?
Yeah, Mr. Croft said it's a different name now, but it's a Swedish company that's been here since 2008. They biogas production that partner with Flint Water Department.
Okay.
And I wanted to know if we've been partnering with them for 7 years now. I never seen anything on the budget of revenues from that company. Are we paying them for the sludge to give to them, or are they paying us for the sludge that we give to them?
Okay.
Okay. We can put the biogas issue. It's not owned by a Swedish company anymore. I believe it's a local guy that owns it now, or semi-local. But if you want, I don't think you were on council. Have we had any discussion about that since you've been on council? No. If not, we can put that on the DPW committee, or if you want, get with Howard one-on-one on that. But we'll put it right now tentatively as a discussion item on DPW, so it can be brought up to speed.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. President, one last thing.
Councilman, can you?
Yeah, this is pretty
Make
quick.
it quick. Appreciate it.
And I see Mr. Alexander in the audience. And I would like to thank Mr. Alexander for the type of stuff that he do, and the other residents of the city of Flint in this water crisis. And the Channel 12 call it a water emergency. But you've met so many people, and so much information has flowed from Aaron Brockovich and Bocock, from Viola to the residents. And Mr. Alexander, you know, I think he had something to do with popping this report out, maybe through Mr. Woodson and others who, I looked at a video and I seen over at Freeman School, Mr. Woodson asking the man from the DEQ about the testing process and so forth and so on. So this social media, the research we've did as individuals, we must continue to do it, because I think what makes this knowledge thing work is when we all zero in on certain parts of it, and then when we all can digest it and put it together, as you see, we can move mountains. And Hurley apologized to what I call the activists and the little people. So I just wanted to say, as we transition into the rest of the meeting, keep up the good work, keep researching, keep reading, keep looking, keep sharing information. And if we do that and then bring it to the proper form, and the council is a proper form, I think we can continue to get a better quality of life, not in just water, but in jobs, in lower crime rates, so forth and so on. Thank you.
Councilwoman Galloway? Nothing? All right, next item on the agenda is communications. Is there a motion to place those on file?
Mr. President, I would move to place the petitions and unofficial communications on file.
Been moved. Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Can we have roll call?
Ms. Poplar?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no on communications.
Next item on the agenda is a master resolution. Can we get a motion to move that master resolution?
Mr. President,
Councilman Mays?
I would move the master resolution for approval and
Support?
or adoption.
Support.
Moved and supported. Are
wait.
there any separations?
Yes.
Councilman Mays?
Yeah, I would like to separate 150886.
Okay.
I would separate 150887.
Okay.
And I would separate 150893.
Anybody else with any separations? All right. Any discussion on the master resolution? Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Ms. Poplar?
Yes.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no on the master resolution.
Motion carries. 150886, Councilman Mays.
Yeah, Mr. President, 150886, that's the resolution resolving that the Finance Department is authorized to issue a purchase order for FY 2016, 17, and 18 to Brown & Sons for the annual brake supply, bulbs, breakers, sprays, filters, so forth and so on. And I think you're not going to be involved in that vote. And so I'm going to be watching it. And I'm going to be watching the vote as it relates to the questions I had in committee meeting as it related to O'Reilly. I believe that that's going to pass, but when I look at the vote count as it come around to me, I'll decide whether I vote yes or no. But regardless of what I vote, you know, I think we've discussed that I want the council to support me on a written communication to O'Reilly. And if O'Reilly respond or don't respond, but I'm very curious to see what their 3 years would look like. And then I want some discussion referred back to, I guess, Finance Committee of Public Works, because I want to have, and I might do some on my own, but just so I won't forget, I want to put on the agenda, I want some more explanation from that guy who was in our committee meeting telling me about how these unit breakdowns and monies are decided. you know, as it relates to a continued discussion of what we had. Maybe I'll do some on my own, you know, when I'm here throughout the week, but I still want that on the agenda, so I'll take it off when I'm satisfied I understand what they're doing.
Any other discussion?
Mr.
He can get with you after the meeting as to what to put on the agenda.
It could be on Public Works and or Finance, and it would just be discussing the bid process as it relates to the annual supply in reference to Resolution 150886.
Okay. Councilman Winfrey?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the motion that my colleague makes, but I want to point this out in a question form, and that is, if there is a letter written to O'Reilly, then how is that being fair to the other three that submitted bid proposals? Now, there is a rule of law, for the lack of a better way to put it, when we send out these proposals, and everybody who responds is supposed to reply in kind. And it is unfair in my mind when we give, it seems to me, an advantage for one company over the other to respond in a different way that everybody else didn't have the opportunity to respond to. I understand my colleague needs information, but I'm wondering now how that will make us look if we begin to write a letter to one of the four and not all of the three, one of the four and not all of the four.
Mr. President, if I may.
Councilman Mays?
I don't think it make us look one way or another because the action on the bid and proposals is finna take place now. After the effect, then based upon my curiosity, I want to see if O'Reilly will respond to us with whether it's true or false, what it'll look like if it had complied with the request for 3 years. They might look at the letter and not respond. I'm just curious to know. Okay. And then I'm further curious to know more about the details of how and why we put these requests out in 3 versus 1 from our own bid and finance department. So I don't think, Mr. Winfrey, that by me doing a follow-up jeopardizes the bid process, because that's fixing to be voted on now, and then I got a feeling it's going to be over with even, you know, so this is just for the future.
I got you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Poplar?
I would do a referral to please put the discussion for the bid process, and will you please put that on finance? I think it's more appropriate for finance than public works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? Can we have roll call?
Mr. Freeman,
Abstain.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey,
Yes.
Ms. Galloway,
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yes.
Ms. Poplar,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
The vote is 7 yes with 1 abstention.
Motion carries. 150887, Councilman Mays?
Yeah, that's the contract dealing with Zito. And this says that we would enter into a change order. And the change order, from what I read, Ms. Henderson, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but it's for $19,570. It's a revision of the contract amount, which was, I think, $695,000 or so. And I don't know if the $19,000 is in addition to the $695,000, which would put it over $700,000, or it's already in there, but it's really a change order. The contract has been given. Ms. Henderson, can you answer me a question on this real quick? The question that I would ask myself when I looked at it this weekend, Ms. Henderson, is it that Zito couldn't stay within the contract, or is it that we had, seen some additional work that we wanted done? I know it was worded additional work. and that led me to believe that it was us wanting Zito to do additional work. And that was the reason for the change order.
That is correct. And then also, I would like to clarify that it's the original amount was $676,300, and then this would be adding the $19,570, and then it would become a total of $695,870.
Okay. I would conclude by saying this. I would like to see some representative from Zito come before us, because I was at that same meeting of the Kara Gandhi, and I'm at other meetings, and so Ms. Poplar chimed in on it, Mr. Woodson chimed in on it, so I want Zito to chime in, if at all possible, because it's fitting to be continuous work from maybe not just this on with Zito, and whenever we do, I'm gonna call it good-sized business with people, I like to sometime meet them and have some dialogue as it relates to Flint people and others as it relates to jobs. So whenever they get time, maybe in the next 30 to 60 days, I would like to make a referral that we send a communications to somebody from Zito to come and powwow with us. So if they're doing a good job, we can thank them. And if, in fact, they got some opportunities for some people we might know or want to refer, I want to try to get them in. So that's my request. And I'll see how I vote when we get there. Thank you.
Any further discussion on 150887? Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
I vote yes.
Ms. Poplar? Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no.
Motion carries. 150893, Councilman Mays.
Yeah, on the last one, if Zito don't come before us in the next 30 to 60 days, I'll be voting no on all this stuff regardless, but because I'm asking for somebody to come holler at us, and I want to meet them. So we'll see if we send that out, that request, or I don't want it to get lost, but I want communications with Zito to come to a Public Works Committee meeting, maybe.
150893, Councilman.
Okay. 150893.
Yes, sir.
That's the one that deals with charitable gaming license, State of Michigan Lottery, charitable gaming license, Flint Cultural Center Corporation, a raffle. The Cultural Center Corporation is a nonprofit operating in the city of Flint for obtaining a charitable gaming license. Through you to either the city administrator and or the city clerk. So when we have a nonprofit getting that permission from the state, is something they have to do locally as well?
Yes.
And so once they go to the second floor and do that locally, it's going to end up coming to us in this resolution form.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks, Mr. President. Without the local action, the state stuff couldn't happen, correct?
It's a requirement of the state
Without local
application.
action, locally it has to be approved as well.
As well as state.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any roll call?
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Ms. Poplar? Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And
The vote
Mr.
is, if I could announce the vote, please.
Go ahead.
The vote is 8 yes, 0 no on 150893.
And Ms.
Councilman Mays.
Mr. President, yeah, and a lot of that stuff I do, and I want my colleagues and the public to know, I do that for more sometime public benefit, so you can not just hear numbers and you can kind of see some of what we're talking about and doing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. Next item on our agenda is public speakers. Again, we've got a 3-minute time period that allows the public to speak on any topic, not just specific to the agenda. Our first speaker.
Our first speaker is Mrs. Gertrude Marshall. Mrs. Marshall.
Good evening. Time is up. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
Hi, my name is Gertrude Marshall. I actually wanted Eric to explain to us more about the law, the investigative powers, and is there any way around it other than having your city council, our city council members, to help you to do what you need to do? Is there a way that the citizens could get involved with it in order for the city council to get their investigative powers, because we really do need it? And secondly, I want to just say that our city council and our mayor has disregarded their oaths. They've disregarded the Declaration of Rights, and they disregarded us as citizens, as your bosses. And me, as one out of 99,000, and not to forget, y'all didn't follow emergency protocol. When y'all found out what was going on with the water, y'all didn't follow emergency protocol. Now, me, as I said, as one of your bosses of the 99,000 here in the city of Flint, there is a few of y'all that I am asking to step down. I'm coming for you. Me and the citizens are coming for you. Walling, number one. 2, Mother Popular, I'm sorry, but you allowed the city to harm. You are a child of God, and I will not disrespect you. Mother Popular, you have allowed these people to hurt the children in this city. Mr. Freeman, you have also allowed these people to hurt the children of this city. Mr. Kincaid is not here. You and Mr. Kincaid, Mother Popular, and Mr. Kincaid are the 2 oldest on this board, as I can recall. We're not having that. Y'all want to sit here like y'all got some order about yourself today, but you didn't have no order about yourself while y'all was harming our children. You did not have no order about yourself when you knew that the water was pumping poison into our systems. You didn't have no sense about yourself. Now, I'm Mama Bear. You think you know me. You do not know me. I am Mother Bear, and I am standing up for every child in this city. And whether the state get rid of you or not, the citizens are asking for your resignation, and we're gonna get it one way or the other. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day.
Our next public speaker.
Mr. Keith Pemberton is our next speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just have a couple of concerns. I don't understand the policy, and I don't understand the process chosen to treat what's going on. Newborns, kids that are still in the womb, kids up to 5 years old, I can understand that process because their brains are still growing, and the lead is going to have the biggest effect on their brains. But all of the other kids that are in schools that were affected, there are no tests set up for those kids. My doctor says that the lead is already out of the blood because the water was switched, and they stopped the water in the schools long enough for the blood to process and get into all of the organs in the body, which means that all of the lead that they were exposed to for a year and a half is already in all their organs. Why aren't the rest of the kids being treated? Why aren't they being tested properly? Not a simple blood test, but a test of every organ and system in their body, because that's where the lead is. What about the fellow senior citizens who already have the lead in their organs? We lived our life. You could care less about us, that's all right. We're going to die because we have organ failures, and it's going to be blamed on us as old age. But you know what? We lived our life. I personally ask you not to let that happen to our grandkids and our kids. Do the right thing by them one time.
Thank you. Our next public speaker.
Next speaker is Mrs. Nancy Berger. Mrs. Berger.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
I do want to thank you for standing behind us, even though you're not over Ward 3. Mr. Nelson is. You stood behind us, and you're still willing to stand behind us. We are from Ambassador East, like I said, and I know that you'll get to the bottom of this. We had turned in our damage claims back then. They were denied within, what, 10 days, Eric? Okay, approximately 10 days. Bade's name was not on it, or was on it. There was a couple other names on it. Immediately turned down. Don't know why. No questions. Weren't able to ask questions about why they were denied. They're coming back again, just to let y'all know. And to all let y'all guys know this as well, that I hope each and every one of you find it in your heart to come out and start telling the truth, because when this comes criminally and it becomes federally known, and it will, my hand held to God, when all the truth comes out, you will all go down with Walling. Maybe not in the same cell, but you will all go down with him. And I don't want to see it. I do hope that I'm around to see it, but I don't know because of this water issue. To this day, now that I have running water out of my taps, all I'm able to do is flush my toilets. But yet I still have a water bill. One's an actual read that comes up $78.38. Another one that is the following month, which is estimated at $78.38. The only thing that is raised on there is the service charges of $5. And the man that was in the home was only there by himself. It's a shame. You can't get it one way. You can't get your money one way. You try to get it another. Walling needs out of office. He needs to leave. Let a woman run the office. When a woman can run an office and do the job right the first time, Karen Weaver needs to get into office. Once, to clean up this mess that Walling has done, and then second of all, to prove herself to us. I know she can do it. And yes, I do stand here, and I do stand for Karen Weaver. And I hope that each and every one of us, and yes, I'm disabled myself, but I sure in the hell will be at that meeting, at that voting poll, and I will be voting.
Next public speaker.
Mr. R.L. Mitchell is our next speaker.
How many we got left?
Good evening.
How many?
Hey, Josh, I believe he's trying to ask you a question. Tell him. Okay. My name is R.L. Mitchell, if you know Anyway, I want to, about this, Miss Popper that done shocked everybody in here by saying, I was going to say we the people, but we the majority speak about this Miss Popper when she made this statement. The majority of the peoples, what this Zena do, it was 4 people bidding on who want to do the work for Flint, and Miss Popper said, put it in finance. And that's just like in cahoots with the mayor. The mayor don't even must recognize for the lowest bidder was the guy who rebuilding that post office right across the street from TV5. But he want to get this dude from out of town like nobody, the public, we the majority don't see that junk. That's why the lady talking about a mother from, and then both of them, and she a mother too. So go and have some whole lot of, anyway, I ain't gonna talk on that, but you know good and well. Like in 71, that's what we were fighting for. Strong mayor, and we the majority gonna get treated right in this city because it's more them majorities in Flint like they doing Mays. They doing them right by taking his change off of his apartheid junk, but he's still gonna be on the third when they try to get a woman because they get more majority than man to run this city like nobody cares, like we the people's okie dokies. Think y'all is. I'm gonna say my
Our next public speaker.
Mr. Arthur Woodson is our next speaker.
How you doing?
Good evening.
I'm gonna say this. Last time I was here, I called everybody a political coward. That was the wrong thing to say. I should have said what Councilman Mays been saying, no political will, because it was more respectful. So I apologize for saying political coward. Now, back to the water thing. Dane Walling needs to resign, and everyone that had something to do with it. Mayor Walling, when I spoke to Jim from MDEQ, he said that Mayor Walling, it was a local decision to go back to our emergency backup resource. MDEQ said this, not me. Mayor Walling was put over day-to-day operations by Darnell Early, June 2014. Now, in this book, July 2011, it states that environmental impact of work on dams or removal of sediments from the river or reservoirs needed to be done before we can use the treatment plant on daily continuous basis. And then it said that it takes 52 to 60 months for completion. And then on here it states that addressing the preceding items is likely to require a great deal of time and effort because of the impact on many other parties. Without making the modifications above, the river is limited to supplying a maximum a day demand of about 11.6 million gallons a day. Now, I was doing some more research, and on here it says, like I said, the environmental impact of work on dams or removal of settlement. Settlement is the key word here because I got a General Motors corporation, Flint River Settlement Investigation done by EPA, MDEQ, and General Motors. And on here it says that the lead appeared to be relatively enriched in sediment at transits FRT 5 and 9, where the maximum concentration was observed at FRT 5A. And what it's saying is, throughout this whole book, where U.S. EPA did a study, it said that the lead is high concentrated adjacent and downstream. Flint treatment plant, the reason why they couldn't do corrosion control is because they didn't have the equipment to do it with. They just now installing it. When I spoke to the MDEQ, he told me that when they first got the test back and it was 6, they sent a letter to optimize the water. They couldn't do it because they didn't have it. They took lead tests and they didn't test all lead lines under the lead copper rule, But they said they did, so we're really not under the EPA or MDEQ standards because of the simple fact they didn't do it right.
Thank you, Mr.
And they are
Woodson.
being investigated for that right now.
Your time has expired. Our next speaker?
Mrs. Shirley Taylor.
Good evening.
Good evening. You know, the city council should, to me, it should be one body. I can call Miss Poplar. I can call Eric Mays. I call Eric sometime 2 or 3 times a week. I call Mr. Davis. I used to live in Miss Poplar's ward before she even became a person of city council. If I need to know something, I have their numbers. I can call them. Might not be their ward, but they get the answers for me. The whole city council should be like that. No matter what, it should be one body. And I truly can say I can call these 3 people anytime, leave a message, they will return my calls. And another thing I hate about Dane Wallings, the position is an honorable position. But you have to look at the person that's in that position. Do you have any respect for him? Do you have any honesty for him? Do you have any trust? No. Chief Tolbert is an honest person as far as I know. We have a good police department. We had the same with Chief Locke. And they had open door meetings. And I went in there and I asked Chief Locke, do you have any more evidence about the murders of my sons? He said, Miss Taylor, my hands are tied. Warlings was laying off people. Our murdered children are important to us. We will never get over this. I hired me a private investigator that was a retired FBI man. I found out who killed my kids. One is dead, and the other one is in prison for shooting other people. Got a rap sheet this long. But how can Wallings tie anybody's hand when he have to have a city manager here ever since he's been in office to run the business?
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Our next public speaker.
Our next speaker is Ms. Carrie Weber. Ms. Weber.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. I have a public service announcement for everybody out here, not these folks. Be very careful who you irritate that sits up here. Am I not right, Mr. Freeman? And I thank you personally so much for coming out and trying to talk to me last week. I do. I appreciate that. You're right. I've never spoken to you, and why would I? But how dare you, and I mean how dare you, think you're going to throw yourself around, go physically charging up to a constituent, backing them into a wall, because the issues my family are going through and dealing with were interrupting your evening. You're down there chit-chatting, giggling, just like this seems to be an issue. The city council, you're calling people names, pretty much acting like a 2-year-old. That's what I base my opinions on, not an insane man. I watch you. And when I asked you if I was interrupting your evening with problems, I left. Did I not, Mrs. Galloway? Miss Galloway? I was leaving for the evening. Because you obviously, just like you folks had done most of the night, were not interested in what any citizen has to say. Miss Galloway follows me out to apologize, saying it's an email, we aren't laughing at you. Sorry, hon, I don't know that I believe that. We're struggling in my home. My husband, my daughter, our dog, we're struggling. And all you can do is complain about the time. And then when she comes out to talk to me, you came charging out of that room. Now remember, Mr. Freeman would have had to cross the entire room, come out that door, trap me right up by that back door, stood over me, if I may, much like this, and pointing his finger at my face and chest. And you are the president of the city council. Next time, you better bet on it. I'll have a police officer and we'll chat about this. That is the last time you will ever get that close to me. You have no business. You have no business. I don't care how pissed off I made you. I hadn't said a word to you until I very respectfully asked you, I'm sorry, are our family's issues bothering your time? I had been talking to Mr. Croft and Miss Henderson. I wasn't even talking to you. But you're down there blowing it off as usual, laughing, joking, pissed because it's past 7 and you want to be at home, and then you charge a constituent. Next time, you won't walk away.
Why you gotta pick on a little woman?
Our next public speaker.
Our next speaker is Miss Carolyn Shannon.
Answer the question.
That's why the time's being held, ma'am.
My time has already started? Oh, okay. Okay.
3 minutes.
To the most gracious council, Mr. President Josh Freeman, and the very graceful city clerk, Inez Brown. I'm here today on behalf of the citizens of Flint. I think it is egregious, the lackluster leadership in our community. When you put the honor of mayor in someone's hands, remember, power in the wrong hands is very dangerous. We have been in a very dangerous mode for quite a few years, starting with the recall of Mayor Stanley. And we have not had a voice in this city probably in 12 years. I'm here to tell you this evening that that is over. You should never be above the people you serve. If we told you a year and a half ago the water was dirty, it smelled, we cannot drink it. That was the citizens of Flint protesting. not Johnny come lately. You didn't have to pay us anything. We told you the water was no good. You ignored us. We're complainers. We're protesters. Citizens know right from wrong. And I am standing here on behalf of all citizens of Flint that was gouged, that you took our money, ran our bills up, and made us pay it. And I gladly ask Ms. Henderson to refund our money. I'm not speaking for myself. I am speaking for the less fortunate, the senior citizens whose backs have run this city. We ran this city. Why do we need a chief financial officer and we do not have any money to count? That is elementary. I'm asking you to return the citizens' refunds, which is a great deal of money. So said the judge. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Mr. Michael Weber. Mr. Weber.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
I find it despicable that a member of this council would back a woman into a wall, physically intimidate her, verbally attack her. Next time you need to feel like a big man, you come at me.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker.
Mr. Quincy Murphy is our next speaker.
Is that the last?
Mr. Murphy.
That's the last one.
Quincy Murphy, is he gone?
Must be gone. Our next speaker.
Our last speaker is Mr. Tim Robbins.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal, thanks. First of all, I want to thank Eric. You seem to be the only council member that's been behind the city of the people of Flint. I want to thank you. And also, in the last, it was the council meeting where you publicly apologized, the only city official to publicly apologize to the people that the water's affecting for what this situation is. And I want to thank you for that. The other thing I want to address is, my mom always taught me actions speak louder than words. And I don't know you, Josh, but Mr. Freeman, but you're the president of the city council, and I think you ought to behave that way. When I saw you call Eric insane, to me, you're not going to shake in your head, no, that you did call.
Mentally ill, I said.
Huh?
Mentally ill.
Mentally ill. Mentally ill. Well, whether you think he is or not, your opinion is not his reality. He's not mentally ill. But the other thing with Carrie, I did watch you get out and walk out after you've been laughing at her crying. That was okay, shake your head, but I'm sitting and watching, that's what I saw. I'm watching your actions. After she left, you rushed out, and I walked out to follow because I heard loud yelling out there. And I walked up, and you had her backed up against the wall with your finger pointing down in her face. Now, that is not becoming of a president of a city council. I believe everybody would have to agree with that, including yourself. So I think you ought to get yourself in check and put your personal feelings in check. And I'm pretty sure you'll never come talk to me like that.
That's our last speaker? All right. Since I've been a hot topic of discussion tonight, I'll start first. One of the great things about being in a public building, like a city hall, is that everything that we do is on camera. So
Not in the hallway.
if you go out in the hallway and look above the garbage can, there's a camera there that you can FOIA it, and I'm sure you can get it. And I think that when you see that, you'll not find me backing anybody up against the wall. Okay. Okay, well, it's hard to argue with film. So the reality is you are standing up against the wall, talking with counsel. Ma'am, I have been more than patient with you and allowed you to say what you needed to say. What you needed to say, and I would appreciate it if you would allow me the same courtesy that I gave you.
Your 3 minutes are up.
So, perception and reality are sometimes quite different, so that's where I'll leave it. Councilman Davis. Councilman Davis.
Well, first and foremost, I'm extremely apologetic for the situations that has occurred in the city of Flint when it comes to the water. I think since I've been in office, this probably is the worst time of the history of the city of Flint, and I guess that my position is going to be written in that history. And so I would like to be and express my apology, but most importantly, I'd like to express my shame and my embarrassment that things had got to this point where it has risen, where that it has put people's lives in jeopardy. I remember a year and a half ago as the young lady came to the mic and she spoke about the protest. Matter of fact, she can recall when I gave her a sign, when I had written on the sign in my handwriting that the water had a discoloration, it had an odor, and is it safe to drink? And we protested that this water needs to be tested and it needs to be checked due to the fact that it may cause an adverse effect in the lives of humans. I didn't know if it would cause an adverse effect in children like it has caused, but I knew for some reason that this water was not good. I knew 50, 60 years ago that we had been taken off the Flint River for a reason, and that reason was never resolved. And I had a strong disdain or dislike towards the ideal of going to the Flint River. And that was the reason why one of my protests was stemming around the unqualified water. However, that is being said, I attempt to move forward with many of you who would love to be a part of it, because I think that many of us need to continue to consult with Washington, D.C., not just I, but we, in asking for funds to fix our infrastructure. Me and my wife, we lobbied about a week or two ago asking for funds out of the water revolving funds to bring and either fix or replace the pipes. That's just a step, because it's just really gibberish until something is acted upon. But it is an act of leadership, and I hope that people can acknowledge that. It's an act of leadership to go to Washington, D.C. and do what you have been elected to do. But I think at the end of the day, it takes a village to make a difference. And I think that has been proven through all of you guys protesting and lobbying and standing in front of City Hall and whatever else you may have done to bring light to our problems. And most importantly, I think Ms. Leanne, I hope I'm saying her name right, I think she should get a round of applause for contacting Virginia Tech, because that was what really moved the wheel when she got Mark and them involved. Now, I can speak about all the protests and I did and all that, but that's good. But what she did, to me, was the ultimate, when she contacted Mark about her children having lead in their system. And I think that moved the wheel, because what it did, it provoked or it brought some interest to Hurley Hospital that was kind of connecting to getting the governor to do what he needs to do. And I do want to get away from the I, but I have to speak about it. I remember when I submitted a letter and they put it in the MLive when I said that Governor Engler was creating a genocide. A lot of people from other ethnic groups attacked me for using the word genocide, and I told them that genocide is not relative to one race. It's really not a race, it's a class. Because these conditions that we suffer from in Flint in dealing with the quality of water has a lot adverse effect on low, moderate income people. It's a form of removing you away from a situation or a comfortable condition and pushing you back in the southern hemisphere. And to me, I find that to be deplorable, and I find it to be unjust, because that's what I called it. Governor English said that it was, Snyder, excuse my language, Snyder, both of them was evil to me, so I'm always using his name as well. Sorry for that. But that was a misnomer to say English. I'm going to use the word Snyder. He said my words were inappropriate. And I'm just speaking now for my leadership, because at the end of the day, everybody has to speak about their own leadership, because when history is written, it's written based on your leadership and what role you played in. And so, but in the end, I think that we should use the French term we, because at the end of the day, we all have to make a stand. And we all have to continue to allow our voices and our distaste and our dislike and our welfare stand at the forefront. And this is something that I try very hard to do, irregardless of what people may feel about Councilman Davis. I fight hard for us. I might not yell, might not scream, but I allow my actions to stand forward in trying very hard to let the people know that I have an interest in your welfare as I have an interest in my family welfare as well. Because at the end of the day, I am adversely affected by the conditions. My family is adversely affected by these conditions. And so it would be somewhat suicidal for a person like myself or anybody in elected seats. I don't know what disflavor may be in your minds about some people, but I'm just speaking for myself, that it would be a form of suicide for me to accept those conditions that we were held up under. But now that we're moved back to the city of Detroit, DSW, which is Lake Huron, I think that is a plus. But at the end of the day, we have to work on our infrastructure, because we have a pipe system that has not been worked on in 60 years. That pipe probably was as big, probably this big. Now it's probably as small as a quarter. I'm just using an example, a hypothetical. And so at the end of the day, we're going to have to fix that. And we're going to have to find some way to get some money from the federal standpoint and the state. They both is going to have to be in alliance with one another in order to give us the funds to fix our infrastructure, because there are still lead in those pipes. And you have some pipes are clay pipes. That lead has embedded itself in those pipes, and those pipes, the lead would never come out of it. You have to make your decision after 90 days, after it's flushed out from what the data states and what some experts state. You have to make your wise decision and your better judgment for your health and your welfare if you want to continue to drink it. But that's a decision you have to make. But my goal moving forward from this point is I want to do whatever I can do in working with my colleagues and working with the city administration and the federal government in Washington and the state government to see how can we fix our infrastructure problem, because at the end of the day, that problem has to be resolved. And so I say, and I leave by saying that, and I yield my right to whoever else is next. Thank you, Mr.
Councilwoman
President.
Van Buren. Anything tonight?
No, thank you. No
Councilwoman
comments.
Galloway.
No, thank you.
Councilman Winfrey.
Just briefly, Mr. President, for all of the speakers at the beginning of the meeting and then at the end, I want to encourage you and thank you for exercising your First Amendment rights. To Mr. Woodson, I applaud you for your investigative prowess, and keep on doing your research, not just for African Americans, because there are disenfranchised whites and other minorities that we need to be concerned about as well. But I agree with you. It is us who are the gatekeepers to those big companies that do business with us. And we need to make a statement about what it is we expect in return for the taxpayers' money that they're receiving. So keep up the good work. Not just you, but all who are out here trying to make this city a better place. Thank you.
Councilman Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be very brief. Just want to comment on one thing. Ms. Berger made a statement, and I just wanted to comment on it. I have nothing against Ms. Berger at all. I think she's a wonderful person. But when I was appointed to this position in January, in February, Councilman Mays brought this situation to me. It had been going on for 2 years prior to this. I think me and Councilman Mays made 3 or 4 trips out there. He has helped and supported, and I don't have a problem with him continuing to do so. But I like the record to be straight that I didn't find myself trying. I even have talked to Ms. Henderson and to say something needs to be done. And Ms. Henderson said she's willing to do that. I just don't want to get out there that Councilman Nelson did not do anything. That's not the truth. I don't have a problem with Councilman Mays. I think he does a terrific job. He came and brought it to my attention, and we've been out there together. And I still said they are forgotten people, and we need to do something for them. And I just had spoke with the city administrator, and she is willing to do that. And so I just want the record straight. Nothing against Ms. Berger or anything. And I know we throw out names, and Eric helps a lot of people, as we all do, across each wards. I get calls from all wards. It just doesn't make, I don't go out and tell everybody, this person called me from that ward. That doesn't matter as long as the person getting taken care of. That's all that matters. Mr. Mays, continue to work, and we'll work together, okay? I have no problem. Mr. President, I'm through. I must leave now and go to Antioch. I have an event that I must get to tonight, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Poplar?
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Woodson, I have the heart of the workers just like you do. A few years ago, we council, rewrote the ordinance to give the locals contractors, I raised it to 5% to give them a better chance at the bidding. So we have, as a council, before this council came on, we did try to help the local construction workers and all of the vendors. So all locals got a 5%, percentage over out-of-towners. And I feel the same way, about that. To those that this is a free country. This is a free world. You like who you want. You like who you don't want. I don't dislike anyone in here that does not like me. That's fine and dandy. I have 5 constituents on my phone right now that I have to return phone calls to that I did something personal for in the 2nd Ward. So I don't feel bad about my job today. I thank Ms. Taylor that she didn't get up and bash me, because I was there for Ms. Taylor when her sons were murdered. I was there with Ms. Taylor when she asked me to come pray and put flowers down and all of that. This is what I do. And the majority of you have no clue, so I can't get mad at you. So if you never called me to do anything for you, that's why you don't know what I do. So like I said, if you don't like me, that's fine and dandy. I pray for those that don't like me. Mr. Freeman, there is citywide revival at Antioch, and my choir is singing. I'm on my way to Antioch. Thank you.
Mr. Mays?
Yeah, I'm going to give honor to the Almighty God, and I'm glad that I do believe in God, and God has been watching over me in this city and others, and I hope God continue to stay in the mix. I don't know sometime what I would do without my faith and belief. I want to thank Mr. Leroy Jackson. That's Mr. Jackson out there with that tablet. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Jackson's wife talked to me. She was active, am I right? Tell me yes or no, out in Atherton East, I think it was. And she said, my husband is upstairs and he kind of been watching and like you, and you done got him active in politics and interested. Would you talk to him on the phone? I say, well, yeah, I talked to him on the phone. She said, because he ain't never really paid attention to this. And so I talked to him, and ever since I've been seeing him do little stuff on Facebook, Mr. Winfrey, and he had on there Hickam Mays out the Batcave for justice. And, it was kind of tripping me out. I say, boy, there's something else with this technology. And then he broke a record for me. He come in the committee meeting last week and recorded me talking. I didn't even know it was being recorded, and it had over 12,000 views. I mean, this video done been all over everywhere in that discussion in committee meeting. I told Jason that I want them council meetings or these council meetings put back on Channel 17. I mean, it's people who really been trying to keep up with government. Wednesday, it'll be a forum, if everything goes right, live on ABC 12. I'll be glued to the tube because I love politics. They say it'll be Mayor Wallen and Karen Weaver live. I'm like, man, I thought they said I was going to be the only one on the ballot. But either way it go, I'm going to be watching that. I'm not planning to do any write-ins. Everybody who followed me know where I stand, and I will probably be voting absentee because I'll be in court on election day. And I'll be picking a jury. So God bless the candidates, and I'm asking everybody to tune in at 7 o'clock on ABC 12. And, you know, let's see what happens. I already know what's going to happen. It's going to be two people on there. Some people going to like one, and some going to like the other one. The one some people like can't do nothing wrong. The one the other people like can't do nothing wrong. And so everybody kind of already know where they going to be. Just this energetic crowd here. I'm taking a recess for a couple of days because I know how I operate. When it's election time, I concentrate on elections. I want people to take their energy over the next few days and do something to help a candidate. Well, I really want you to do something to help the candidate I like. Now let me say this. After Wednesday comes Thursday. I want to put a motion on the floor that we call a special meeting at 5:30 Thursday to start investigating what went wrong with this water and where do we move forward from here as it relates to these tests. So, you know, I'm going to do it, and we'll see. We've seen what happened with the emergency meeting. I'm making the motion right now to hold a special meeting on Thursday, this Thursday coming up at 5:30. And I've asked for a committee or whatever, but I'm more of not just talk. Some people think I'm just a talk, but I'm really a strategical action man. And so I listen to everybody say what they said, and now I'm the last of the Mohegans. I get to communicate, but I'm for action. So I move, Mr. President, that we have a special meeting dealing with water, and the agenda for starts will be dealing with investigate what might have or didn't go right or wrong from just like Anna nicknamed. And then secondly on that agenda, I want to detail what we should do as it relates to testing, not only at schools, but all around the city, and who and what from this point forward. So I so move.
There's a motion.
Support.
There's been a motion.
Support.
There's a motion on it. Jesus Christ.
Support.
There's a motion on the floor that's been supported. Clarify. To clarify, are you talking this Thursday or the following Thursday?
Yeah, that would be this Thursday. Wednesday is the forum, and that's Thursday. The next day is when I asked for that meeting, and I'm calling and putting a motion for 5:30 the following day. What's the date that Thursday?
No, the 29th.
October the 29th. I want to start that dialogue as it relates to both local investigation and or testing and water issues moving forward. So we'll see what happens if we decide to meet, but I want to start that dialogue in a special way.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Can we have roll call?
Open meeting? all council meetings are open to the public, open and transparent, and we'll see what happens if we will meet.
Just what time?
5:30 is what I'm suggesting. I'm open for any amendments depending on the colleagues, but I always go with evening 5:30. If I may, under the discussion, I would urge us to pass this motion and then let's see if we show up, get a quorum. The legislative branch in Lansing, Anna McNim, you know, everybody looking to see what they do. As far as Ms. Henderson, if she's there, I didn't say nothing about subpoenas or putting people on oath yet, but we might talk about that. But I do want to call the meeting to investigate and moving forward testing and catch up on water issues as it relates to the emergency that I think that has went on in this community. And we'll take it from there if we choose to meet.
Is there any further discussion about the motion on the floor? Can we have roll call?
Yes, Ms. Galloway?
Yes.
Ms. Van Buren?
I'll vote yes, but I won't be able to be there on Thursday.
Mr. Mays?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And Mr. Freeman?
No.
The vote is,
Got Winfrey.
You didn't do Winfrey.
Mr. Winfrey?
Yes.
Okay, the
Yes.
vote is 5 yes and 1 no.
Motion carries.
And may I end by saying this? I don't take politics personally, but since I've been in office, I've got to learn to get a thicker skin. Ms. Carrie Weber, I know that I fuss and cuss and do as it relates to people. I done had all kind of people say and do stuff to me in and out of meetings, and I don't bite my tongue. But when we get one chance every 4 years to decide whether who gonna be on the council and who gonna be on mayor, this is it. Y'all got to help give yourself relief, and we got to help all across this city make a decision. And you know what I'm saying without saying it specifically. Let's get out and try to do what we do so that we can, in my opinion, have a better way of conducting business. And let's put our best foot forward, win, lose, or draw. Thank you. God bless.
We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved. Is there
Support.
Been moved and supported. Can we have roll call, please?
Ms. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mr. Mays?
I could lock it up right here. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Davis?
Davis.
Yes.